I never believed I'd work with Arabs that live in Dubai. I never believed that I'll text people in Syria and in Lebanon and we'll create content together. And actually, what's going to bring us together is creativity and fun and the need to speak to people and to make an impact. And suddenly, when I understand that, politics feels redundant and weird.
Welcome to Unlikely Partners, a new podcast that tells the stories of Israelis and Palestinians who are defying the odds. Most people think Israel-Palestine is a zero-sum game, and that cooperation between Israelis and Palestinians is impossible now. Yet, there are people who are doing it anyway, and it's crucial that their stories are heard. Each episode of Unlikely Partners will follow Palestinians and Israelis navigating significant obstacles to create something that neither could build alone. This isn't about politics or about solving the conflict. It's about what happens when two people from opposite sides decide to bet on each other. I'm your host, Yadin Kaufmann. I've spent my career in venture capital and social entrepreneurship in Israel. I've also started several organizations aimed at empowering young Palestinian entrepreneurs and building bridges with our neighbors. For today's conversation, we're joined by Nuseir Yassin and Ayelet Weissman of Nas.com and 1000 Media, a global digital marketing and content production company. Nuseir is a Palestinian-Israeli vlogger, entrepreneur, and media personality. He's the founder of 1000 Media and the creator of Nas Daily, which has tens of millions of followers and subscribers, in which Nuseir addresses, mainly through video, a wide range of topics, including events in the Middle East and his identity as a Palestinian from Israel. Ayelet is the CEO of 1000 Media, and she's a Jewish Israeli. Nuseir, Ayelet, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. This is the first time Ayelet and I chat without talking about work.
Okay, well, I was always happy to make that happen. All right, so let's start. You guys are really, it's fascinating, and I'm sure this is going to be a great episode. I'd love to just have you start by telling us your backgrounds. I mean, you come from different places. Nuseir, why don't we start with you? Where did you grow up? What were your dreams as a kid? And when did you and how did you learn that, Jews are not the enemy?
I grew up in next to Nazareth in northern Israel as a Palestinian Arab Muslim. And it was a small village called Arabi. And, ever since I was a kid, I knew I wanted to leave actually because I had no Jewish friends. Because my village is 100% not Jewish. Actually 99.9%, and the only Jewish lady was our family friend, but I personally had no Jewish friends, so I knew I needed to sort of leave Israel to understand Israel. And my first Jewish friend, when I realized Jewish people, Israelis are not the enemy and they don't look down on me, was actually at Harvard in the United States, and that was Zaki Jamal. For those that know him, he's a venture capitalist who recently passed away. That's my story.
It's sad that you have to go abroad. You have to go to Cambridge to really get to know an Israeli, right? I mean, why weren't you able to do that in Israel?
That's probably the main thing that makes me angry. The kid version of me today should be able to do that. I don't know why, but I think there's this massive self-segregation where we don't want to talk to you guys and you guys don't want to talk to us. I'm not here to blame Jewish Israelis. I'm actually blaming ourselves as well. We find more comfort in talking in Arabic to fellow Arabs. Simple as that.
Comes from both sides, the problem. All right, hopefully we can start to address that. Ayelet, how about you? Where did you grow up? And again, what made you think that maybe an Arab is not necessarily an enemy of ours?
So I think, the common Israeli girl story. I grew up in Maccabim Reut, which is a small town between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, suburbia. super like all Israeli lifestyle. All my friends were Jewish and Israelis. All my friends looked and behaved like me, if I'm honest. After high school, I went to IDF. And then I moved to Tel Aviv like everyone else and interacted, sadly, with exactly the same people. I think that for me, the turning point was also only when I left Israel. And I think that's the sad part of the story, that I really had to leave Israel, not to live in the mainstream anymore, not to live in the center of Tel Aviv, where I feel comfortable and surrounded, to really start and understand the world, to understand that there is more to what I know. And I think for me, that was a turning point, the start of it.
And I'm very curious now, Ayelet, when was the first Arab? Who was the first Arab you met or befriended? Don't say it was me, was it?
No, it wasn't here. Of course, no. Firstly, look, I moved to Australia, and in Australia, I actually met Lebanese for the first time, and it was as shocking.
Arab Israelis, have you met?
I had one friend. She went with me to Tel Aviv University, and she gradually became one of my best friends. Now, there is a really crazy story between us because there was an Independence Day. And I don't know if you know that about me, Nuseir, but I love singing. Do you know that? So the university decided that I'll sing a song for Independence Day. She was my best friend, so I invited her to come and watch me. And she's like, I don't like this day. And I was like, but I'm your best friend and I'm singing, so you're gonna come. She's like, okay, I'm gonna come, I'm gonna stand there, but I'm gonna stand there with the Arabs and I'm going to protest against you. So she did listen and she did give me an amazing feedback after that. But while I was singing, she was shouting against. And that was my first friend.
That's wild.
Tell us about Nas Daily. How did this start? I mean, Nuseir, you went to Harvard. Shortly after that, you started this, or maybe while you were in school. How did this happen? I mean, it's a global phenomenon. Tell us how you made this happen.
Honestly, I have no clue. I just saw that if you create something from nothing and you put it on the internet, something beautiful happens. Really, I just learned the basics like a monkey. I saw people create apps, put them on the internet, they become millionaires. And I saw people put videos, they put them on the internet and they become vloggers and famous. And I was like, there's something beautiful about the internet. So really my fascination was with the internet and the ability to reach many people very, very fast. I loved that. So I thought instead of making apps, I did like 10 apps before that and they didn't work. It's like, okay, this app thing, maybe not for me yet. Let me just make a couple of videos much faster. And then I did. And that's kind of when I realized, okay, there's an opportunity here. Essentially every video is a startup. And so I just left my job, left the country, and I went to Africa and I just started making a video every day. Because if you don't have a job and you don't have a career, you should not be taking a single day off. And the rest is history. I think the world resonated with it. And what's beautiful about Nas Daily is that the world liked it without knowing who's behind it. Without thinking, this guy's a Muslim, I don't like it, or this guy's Israeli, I don't like it. They didn't care. It's just a young, foolish guy who's just excited to see the world, and people followed. And actually, Ayelet was one of them. Ayelet, you were one of them, right? And we connected because this is a cool story. 6 years into the trip, or 7 years into the journey, I made a post saying, I want somebody to replace me in hosting Nas Daily. I want to focus on building a company. I want somebody who's good in front of the camera. And Ayelet sent a video from Australia. And eventually I kind of backtracked into that idea. I stayed in front of the camera. I was like, Ayelet, you're so good. And you have such great energy that you should just come and work with us. And that's kind of how we met, through these videos.
Yeah. And pretty far from Israel, by the way.
I want to hear about Ayelet's initial involvement in this, but what were those first videos about? How did this catch on?
How did this catch on? I just change countries every 10 days. And every time you land in a new country, you see a whole new world. So if I drop you right now, Yadin, if I drop you in the middle of North Korea, you can't wait to tell your friends about what you see in North Korea. Then if I drop you in Ethiopia.
If I was in North Korea, I'd probably wait before telling my friends.
But you know what I mean is the more I traveled, the more I was excited to share what I'm seeing with the rest of the world. So the videos were about my experiences, interesting people I'm meeting, countries, cultures. It was really like a moving caravan. and it was incredibly hard, but it changed my life.
You weren't in North Korea, were you?
I was.
Really?
It was before Nas Daily, but it was for like 7 days or so. You'd be surprised how safe it is. People all think it's like very dangerous. It's actually quite safe. It's one of the most interesting forms of government in the world.
What actually made you so interested in all these different countries? I mean, how did you get the bug to go to a different country every 10 days?
The reason for that is because, and it goes back to being Arab Israeli, you don't feel like you belong to any country. I never felt like I was an Israeli because I couldn't even raise the Israeli flag. And I certainly never felt like a Palestinian. I never raised the Israeli flag. I never thought it represented me. And today I feel like it doesn't represent me at all. So as somebody who grew up almost without a flag, I felt like I belonged to every country. So I really felt like, all right, I felt stateless. And so I wanted to explore how do other countries in the world look like? What do they do that's right? And how can we learn from them as Israel and Palestine? How can we learn from them to kind of copy here? So I really went around the world to look for the best in every country. So I'd love to get the potatoes of Peru because they have like 50 types of potatoes. But also I'd love to get the education system of Singapore because it's incredible. So, that's kind of what Nas Daily was. I come from unfortunately, a dysfunctional background. Let me go see what's functional out there and how can we learn from it.
How many countries have you been to? Have you counted?
I haven't really counted, but probably 100 or so, but I haven't really counted.
Okay, Ayelet, tell us about your involvement here. I mean, once you sent that video to Nuseir, you got involved, and now you're running 1000media.com, right? Tell us what that's about.
So I think that for me, the journey started when I've started following Nuseir and Nas Daily. And for me, it was kind of like a piece of my identity, funnily enough. When I was far in Australia, for me, he felt like something familiar. And that's why when he advertised, I was like, I have to talk to him. He would get me, which is really interesting because when you look at our region in a global perspective, suddenly we feel closer to each other. So that was the reason why I was really keen. But on top of that, I have to say, I always believe that to solve a conflict, predominantly you need humans and you need people that others love. And it's a super like human quality, right? You need to be someone that speaks to everyone. You need to be someone that walks into a room and people appreciate you and it doesn't matter what you believe in and where you're coming from. And when I saw what Nuseir is doing, I was like, there, he's the solution. For me, it was like, I need to join him because whatever he's doing it well. Because all my Israeli friends, all my Jewish friends were talking about him. And I was like, I need to catch up with this dude. I need to understand how come. So he basically built an empire, if you think about it, by being a human, predominantly human. I don't know if you know, but Nas means people in Arabic. It's all about people. It's not about politics. It's not about your ideology or how. What are you laughing?
I'm laughing because eventually you joined the machine and you saw the dark side of the machine.
You don't have a dark side. Stop saying that. There's not a dark side. Like, we work hard because we believe in the mission. We work hard.
The kitchen is a mess, but the food is amazing.
The food is amazing and the mission is amazing. And that's why we do that. And we will sacrifice everything for that.
How's the work inside?
So the kitchen is interesting. I'll tell you why the kitchen is interesting. Because I never believed I'd work with, Arabs that live in Dubai. I never believed that I'll text people in Syria and in Lebanon and we'll create content together. And actually, what's going to bring us together is creativity and fun and the need to speak to people and to make an impact. And suddenly when I understand that, politics feels redundant and weird. And that's what you gave me.
What's the mission?
I mean, Nuseir started with the mission. My job is basically to amplify what he's doing, is to be an extension for him. I'm constantly trying to, to find minutes and times to spend time with him, to understand him better, in order to have the ability to amplify, to build around that, to create a structure. The mission was always the same: bring people together. That's what he's been doing from day one. Right? He's connecting the globe together. He's telling to the world about people in Africa and in North Korea. and also in Israel, also about Palestinians, about Jews, about conflicts, is bringing people together. But what I love about Nuseir specifically is that he's trying, is like he's following his truth, okay? He would not cover it. Whatever he's saying over here, he would say in our private meetings as well. What you see is what you get, face value. And I think that's rare these days, unfortunately. That's why it's effective.
How do you define the mission? What are you trying to do?
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to Ayelet for joining us. She's really been a breath of fresh air in the company. She has incredible energy, incredible work ethic, incredible to work with. So it's been really, really fun working alongside her. I mean, she thinks like 5 steps ahead of most people when it comes to like business. The mission is actually what she said, right? It's and I try to instill that in the companies, 3 words: bring people together. And it's because I grew up seeing people being brought apart. It only makes sense that the company does the exact opposite. So our technology company is supposed to bring people together. Our hotel in Dubai is a community hotel. Our content is supposed to be that as well. A content that entertains, educates, and humanizes people. You will never see a content that makes you hate somebody. And I think, as you know, and I'm not saying I don't have anger. I have incredible anger inside of me about many, many topics, from government to people to nations to things that happen in countries. But I just never felt like it was my job to make you hate someone. There's enough of these people on the internet. That's the mission of the company: bring people together. And if we can find a way to make money in the process and not be a nonprofit, then that's a win. We have to be a super for-profit seeking company. Massive capitalism. I do not believe in anything like quote unquote humanity wise. I believe that you should do good and do well at the same time, not build a business from oil and then I don't believe in like starting a Nas Daily nonprofit. Nas Daily is the for-profit nonprofit.
Well, hopefully you're making a lot of profit. Now part of bringing people together, you've actually done in your own company, right? I mean, you're bringing Israeli Arabs together, working in your company, right? Which is somewhat unusual. And I'm just wondering, how's that been working? What kind of issues do you find you have to face, if any?
You know, I don't think we've had many issues. Only like October 7th, the first month, it was kind of like a bit weird, like anywhere in the world. But I believe nobody quit because of politics. I think, look, people quit because I drive them too crazy. That's a good reason to quit. But nobody quit because of politics. And my biggest pride in this is that, you have Ayelet managing 2 people from Sudan, many people from Syria, Lebanon, Palestinians from Jordan. Our app developer for Nas.com is from Gaza, like straight from Gaza. And we're not saying this as a flex. We're saying this as nobody cares where you come from. What really matters is your talent. And, that's kind of the company we built.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we work in the creative industry. So if you think of the profile of a creative person, they're passionate individuals. They care about creating. That's what they're all about. And that's why when it comes to these are our discussions. We speak about art with each other. We speak about productions. We speak about speed. We speak about client happiness. We don't speak politics. And I think that the beautiful thing is that if you do go down this path and you ask people, you would see that we absolutely don't have the same political opinions. Okay? But we still work together towards the same mission, towards the same goal. I don't think that you need to be exactly on the same side of the map. When you care about people, when you care about peace, right? When you care about living peacefully, when you care about quiet and happiness, it doesn't matter who you support. It's like it's common to all of us. So I think that's the beautiful thing. And for me, I'm just shocked that I have the opportunity to create amazing relationships and friendships with people that I never thought I'd meet.
Now, it's interesting that both of you are living outside the region. Does this make it easier to do what you're doing, or do you think you could just as well be, both living back home?
Well, I'll tell you why I live outside the region, because if I lived inside Israel, I think my parents would want me to visit our home every single weekend, and that would be taxing. That's the only distraction I can think about. We do have an office in Israel. We have an office in Tel Aviv. We have roughly 20 people in Tel Aviv, 15, 20 people or so. So we have built operation in Israel. It's actually a dream come true. I would love to hire 100 people in Israel. And, I do have to say this, I haven't said this before actually, but every time an Israeli accepts a job in our company, I'm surprised, Ayelet.
Really?
I come from this assumption that, to have somebody have their CEO be Arab Muslim, especially after October 7th, it kind of takes a certain kind of mindset, because there are some people in Israel that say, I would never work for an Arab. I would never work with an Arab, but the fact that people apply and are interested and define, it makes me believe in humanity, actually, because they don't look at me as somebody who's inferior. Because I grew up my whole life with an inferior complex, thinking that I'm less than a Jewish Israeli. I'm less than my older brother. I'm less than my more attractive cousin. I'm less than the smartest. I've always had an inferior complex. And even at Harvard, I was so inferior to complex. And even to this day, I struggle with it sometimes. But to see people I used to think are better than me work with me is kind of a shocker. I still think about it regularly.
Because we have so many people from Israel, and people reach out to us on a regular basis to actually thank Nuseir for his work. So I wonder if it will ever go away, though.
I don't think it ever goes away. But thanking me for the work and saying thank you in the comments, videos is nice. But coming and entrusting me with their career is a whole different thing.
Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the key.
Now, I actually saw that you're giving stipends together with a foundation for, if I'm correct, Jews and Muslims who are working together. And that's in memory, I think, of Zaki Jamal, whom you mentioned. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what the idea is there, getting people to work together?
This is the thing that excites me the most ever. So every time I talk to like a government, like the UAE government or a foundation, an American foundation, we always pitch them the same thing. Let's drop money at people. These ideas come from us. We've probably dropped $1 million or so at people in the Middle East. And, I got $1 million from the UAE government, and I said, I'm going to give it to 300 content creators to turn them into the next Nas Daily. And that was towards Arabs in Egypt, in Lebanon, in Syria. And that was an impactful thing I did. And then when I had this other opportunity with the foundation, they said, well, how can we work together? I said, let's drop money at Muslims and Jews. And they loved that idea. So we love dropping money at people, not in a nonprofit way, but in a, hey, let me give you a chance for $1,000, $2,000. Here it is, risk-free, just make videos. Videos change my life. I believe videos can also change your life. And Ayelet, you ran the next one. How was that experience?
I told you a few days back because I was watching the auditions of all the applications, and they gave me hope. People recorded themselves and told us why they need to be part of this project in the thousands. So that gives us actually hope to see people speak about the conflict from a different perspective, to see people that want to be a force for good, like us. And the fact that there are thousands of them that are willing to put themselves out there and speak about it, I think it's super inspiring. And once again, that's another step forwards towards thinking about a solution, thinking about how we go about this conflict, how we go about conflicts in general, by the way.
Yeah, but everybody has to amplify their voice, and that's why you have to create content. We do not fund people in secret. We do not fund people just to do on the ground stuff. We fund people to go and have a loudspeaker to talk about their beliefs, because too many people are scared of sharing what they really, really think. And it's really, really sad, especially in the Arab, especially in the Muslim world. And that has to change. Yadin, do tell us, how was your experience? Because you've spent your whole career doing this.
Look, I found that when you treat people with respect and you offer them value, then they respond and they're willing to work with you, and they're willing to work together. Not always openly, which is, as you say, it's unfortunate.
Not openly. Yes, that's the key word. You have to do it openly. I'm sick of this. Private, I take your money. Publicly, I'm not associated with you. This happened to me too many times.
Yep, and that prevents this idea from propagating, because if people don't know that people are working together successfully and, both benefiting, then they're less likely to do it themselves. And that, frankly, was, what one of the reasons I started this podcast series, is because I do believe it's important to shed light on the people who are working together and to tell their stories and to help amplify them, and hopefully encourage other people to do the same and increase their impact. I mean, your impact, the people like you. So that's my part of the interview.
And I think that, when it comes to the fellowship that we're doing, it's exactly the same thing. The idea is to give a hub for people to talk about those topics together, to support each other. We have 50 people participating in that. They can support each other. They can support each other beyond the fellowship. And that's exactly what's needed. Because Nuseir can agree with that being being out there alone, speaking, your truth, it's a very, very lonely journey. So the fact that, once again, we bring those people together to support each other gives them the power to continue and do that.
Now, I want to ask you. I mean, we're living obviously in a very difficult period. I mean, it's always a difficult period, but post October 7th. I mean, October 7th, the trauma of that day and what followed, and of the war in Gaza. How did that impact your commitment to what you're doing to bringing Israelis and Palestinians together? And how did it change the reactions that you're getting from your own communities to the fact that you're working together and you're trying to build these bridges?
Look, maybe we have lost a battle, but we're going to win the war. So the way I view peace, it's a series of battles. And yes, in the year after October 7th, in a way, part of me retreated a bit. Even though I was outspoken and vocal about it, but part of me internally kind of retreated a bit. And then I kind of mustered the courage again, and then went back for another battle. So we ended up, raising funds and partnering with builders and building more media channels that sort of bring people together, they're called Builders of the Middle East. We got more than 100 million, I think, views, or 500. How many views, Ayelet?
We have about 600 million views, and we have more than 1.5 million followers now.
Yeah, so we created a media channel with 1.5 million followers after the October 7th stuff. So we did retreat a bit, but we went back again. I would say it's sometimes very difficult to balance. Like, if this was my full-time job, you would see a lot more vocal Nuseir, a lot more vocal. I'd be doing so much more. I would go in programs in Arabi, programs in Nazareth. I'll fucking make the Nas Daily become a household name in Israel in terms of peacemaking. And sorry for saying the F word. The problem is you just got to balance between, running a company that's multinational, that's an AI technology company and a media company on social media. That's, the conflict is 10% of kind of our attention, and 90% is like, how do you make sense of this AI revolution? So in a way, that AI stuff kind of stole my attention for a little bit. It's probably going to steal it for the end of the year. But I'm not, as Jensen says, I'm not waking up a loser. We're gonna go back and do a massive push at some point next year, in 2 years. Where you'll hear about it, but I have an incredible amount of anger / frustration / energy to do something that kind of wakes people up. Like, wake the shit up, wake the hell up. Like stop avoiding Israelis, and Israelis stop avoiding Arabs. So I think a lot of what I'm doing is motivated by anger at the current situation, and you'll see something in the next few years, I hope.
And I have to add to this that for me, every time there is an escalation, every time there is a war or there's mess, I'm getting a phone call from one of my family members, if it's my brothers or my parents, and they constantly say the same thing. They say, we're here taking care of the present. You guys take care of the future.
That's nice.
Nuseir, I want to ask you something. You said to be controversial. I don't know if it's controversial or not, but I want to ask you maybe a difficult question, maybe not. So I watched the video that you made about Israel and Palestine several years ago. You made it, and I saw it has millions of views, and I loved it. I thought it was great. But there was one line in there that struck me, and I don't know whether I'm reading too much into it or not. You said, and I jotted down the words, but you said that you're making the videos to support the many Israelis who want peace and the Palestinians who need peace. So I don't know whether the distinction in the wording was intentional, but on behalf of many Israelis, I'm wondering, I think they might be asking themselves, do many Palestinians want peace the way you say many Israelis want peace? I think that's an important thing for Israelis, Israeli Jews to understand.
I'm glad you kind of noticed. That was very subtle, but that was me kind of putting a subliminal message that I do not believe there's enough of a desire for peace from the Palestinian side. I do not believe that exists today in the existing government, but I think there's enough Israelis that do want peace. I think Palestinians don't know what's best for them. And I'll say this to them in front of their back, behind their back. I said this publicly. Palestinians do not know what's best for them. Palestinians continuously elect religious extremists or tyrannical 80-year-olds. And neither of these people are good for them. Palestinians are allowing sort of this subpar, mediocre, masculine figure to lead them into oblivion. And I think there's foundational problems in the culture. And so the best thing for them, what they need is peace. Whether they like it or not, we need to force peace on the Palestinians. And when you say this stuff, organizations like Seeds of Peace will not like it. Well, how dare you with the academics? Look, at some point, right, you got to say to the baby, stop crying. I don't care if you cry. You're no longer a victim. It's time for you to grow up. And I think the Palestinian cause, I think it's time for it to grow up and be responsible for its own actions. And I say this as somebody who's Palestinian for hundreds of years. And I think saying this stuff kind of makes you persona non grata in like the extremist circles. But privately, in private circles, people say this stuff. I've never had a family gathering where people did not complain about the lack of Palestinian leadership, the lack of Palestinian willingness to engage. And so I'm just saying the quiet part out loud, which not many Palestinians are willing to say, unfortunately. So yes, real deep foundational issues in the Palestinian side, and the best thing for them that we have to force on them is peace.
And how does that happen? How do you force peace on someone?
Look, I think they need another dictator that's not 80 years old and ineffective dictator. I think democracy does not work when there's a force that's stronger than democracy, which is religion. Democracy will not work in Egypt. Democracy will not work in Palestine. Stop trying to force it on them. Force dictatorship on them, that's benevolent. Install a 40-year-old dictator, that's a technocrat, and just force people. You say a couple of words against Israel, you go to jail. At the end of the day, we got to normalize the idea of Israel, and now there's so much fear in the Palestinian side of saying anything pro-Israel or pro-peace. It's a fear-based society, and people must understand that. The reason I'm not afraid because, well, I don't live there, and two, I don't have any revenue coming from there, and three, like I'm Israeli. But in a fear-based society, the existing fear now is to say anything pro-peace. We need to change that. And anything against peace, you need to be fearful of saying. And that's just, I'm just being realpolitik right now. So we need a dictator that makes people afraid of wanting war. And I think that's the only solution I could think of that stops the bloodshed.
I want to add on as a Jewish Israeli. I think that Nuseir, hate and fear exists on both sides, unfortunately. So just to double down on the dictatorship idea, which I kind of like, but if anything, and if we can look back at history at what actually proven to be effective, I think that my dream would be to have one dictator that controls everyone together. And, Jews, Arab, Muslims, the whole region. Maybe that would be effective. Maybe an empire in general would do it. Think about it.
These are controversial statements. Yadin, you may also disagree, and please, I want you to disagree. But Palestine needs another dictator. Simple.
We're not going to solve the whole political issue here, and there's certainly changes that need to happen, I think, on the Israeli side as well. But maybe let's just go from there to, are you optimistic about the future of the region? Where do you see us and where do you see yourselves in, 10 years from now? Are we going to be able to resolve this conflict? What makes you hopeful about that, if you are hopeful?
Yeah, well, I'm personally extremely optimistic. That's why I said, I really want to get back into this, because this is the next AI revolution is going to be in the Middle East. I'm extremely optimistic about this because there's never been a worse time to be a terrorist in the probably history of the Middle East, right? Like Sugar Daddy is down, Iran. Hezbollah is down. Hamas is gone, almost gone. In a way, terrorism almost no longer pays. So I'm kind of excited by that. Across the Middle East, something could go wrong any minute. But for the first time ever, you can see a world where a peace deal happens between Lebanon and Israel, Syria and Israel, and Qatar and Israel, for example. I can see that world within my lifetime. And, I think it's been 3 very, very difficult years, but probably my favorite sentence is "This too shall pass," and I think this too shall pass for the last 3 years. We're gonna have the exact opposite of this, and the exact opposite for the last 3 years is gonna be insane prosperity and insane peace, insane love across the board. What do you think, Ayelet?
So to bring it back to us and what we do on a daily basis, I think that, of course, predominantly we're optimistic people that want to make the world a better place. That's what we do for a living. It's inevitable that I'll wake up with this thought every day. How do we make an impact? How do we change people's minds? How do we bring more people together? How do we touch more people? So predominantly we have it in us. But what I'm seeing is millions of people watching content that brings people together, that speaks about better future. If it's on the Nas Daily page, if it's on Builders of the Middle East, we bring those controversial topic of a better future, of a calmer future. And we see how people react to that. We see people collaborate. We see people agree with us. We see people keen and wish for the same future. So I'm realistic. I'm a mix. I have my crazy optimism, but I'm also looking at stats and looking at this overwhelming number of people that's supporting what we do gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, I think we're close to the action. So we see what people comment privately. We see how they're like, yes, I want peace one day. So we see those private DMs. So we also see the negative ones, but we see that there is enough people that want to see an end to this.
I guess the question is whether there are enough people who can agree on how to get to that end. That's the challenge, right?
That's why I went to 100 countries to look for the best form of government. And unfortunately, the best form of government is not the one we have today in Palestine. If we just change that form of government, I think we could get to peace.
Let me just go back for a minute, because you've made several references to AI and to other things that you're working on within your empire or conglomerate of companies. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that and what is really getting you excited in terms of new offerings that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, look, when the internet was created, I was too young. When crypto came about, I was too poor. So I didn't participate in the internet revolution or the crypto revolution. And now here's the AI revolution. I'm in the right place at the right time. And this is arguably better than crypto and internet combined because machines can now think. And so when machines can think, I think we're going to see an exponential in everything we knew and didn't know. And so I'm particularly excited about entrepreneurship, particularly excited about enabling people to start companies, because starting a company is the happiest form of a human, is when they're working for themselves. And I hope Ayelet one day does work for herself, and I continuously push her to build a business as every single day. And so we want to enable that for millions of people. And you did that as well, Yadin. You enabled entrepreneurship in Palestine. And we want to do that for millions of people, including in Palestine. And I think the solution to that is AI. It's agents that help you market and find customers. It's agents that help you build a better website. It's AI agents that sort of think with you. For the longest time, the reason entrepreneurship did not happen is because people didn't know what to do. They didn't even speak English. So how do you build an internet company? And I think this AI revolution is just gonna, I just cannot wait. This is the most exciting time to be alive.
And I think that can help, that really can give us another way to work together for everybody's benefit.
Totally. Maybe we should do an AI fellowship. Honestly, I wish I could just teach AI to hundreds of Palestinians. This is the one thing that will take them out of whatever state they're in. They should no longer go to high school because that's useless. They should not go to middle school. They should just talk to AI the whole day. And that is what saved me. I talked to people on the internet. I was lucky to make friends online, and that's how I made it to Harvard. I think maybe if they don't have friends on the internet, they will have AI as a friend to take them out of whatever village they're in and make them save their life. So maybe that's something I should do. Thank you for the idea.
Actually, I'll just tell you that in the Palestinian Internship program, which I started, which, by the way, it would be great to have an intern at your company.
We'd love that. Actually, let's do that. Give us an intern.
Let's do it.
Okay, we'll definitely do that. But I'm just apropos what you just said, we actually have been teaching these kids, these university graduates, we've been giving them AI content because it is so important for anything they're going to do going forward. So, okay, that's great. Actually, we'll follow up on that. All right. Anything you guys want to add? This has been great. Any additional thoughts that you wish I had asked or wish I hadn't asked?
If you notice, maybe for the viewer, if you notice the relationship between me and Ayelet has nothing to do with Israel. It's kind of weird, right? It's nothing to do with Israel. It's almost like it doesn't exist. It's just a human who's talented, another human who wants talented people to work with, and we kind of for those that wonder what is it like on a day-to-day basis, we didn't even talk about this. We just talked about how is the hiring going, how is the finances, how is the P&L, how is the clients, how is the technology, what do we do, oh my god, office, all that stuff, right? It's just that. And it's beautiful to be able to not look at labels and say, well, I'm working with Ayelet because she's Jewish Israeli, because I want to prove a point. It's actually not. I'm working with her, regardless of whatever she is. And I hope she's doing the same. But maybe you're working with me because I'm Arab now, I learned?
Of course not. What do you think? I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, let's go to meet my Arab boss? Of course not. I'm just like waking up in the morning and thinking how the hell I'm going to tell you about our finance.
No, finance is good. Finance is good.
Finance is amazing. I'm just joking.
Well, this has been great. Really appreciate your joining us and sharing your experience and your thoughts and your hopes for the future. It's really been very inspiring.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, good luck.